Mentorship doesn't have to be formal to make a significant impact. In fact, your student may already have someone in their corner, a teacher, a coach, a boss, and they just need help naming that nurturing relationship. In this conversation, I sit down with Astronaut Scholarship Foundation winner, Catie Kean. We explore what real mentorship looks like with her mentor, Dr. Corbin. Catie shares how key mentors, starting as early as high school, shaped her confidence and her forward career path. And Karen shares the mentor side, how rewarding it is to invest in the next generation and how students can show up in ways that make the most of that support. We talk about the qualities of great mentees, how to ask for help, and how mentoring relationships can evolve over time. Mentorship is for those of all ages. In this episode, we'll spark some great conversations and maybe help you see mentorship in a whole new light. Let's welcome Dr. Corbin and Catie to the show. Welcome to the show, Dr. Corbin and Catie Kean. Happy to have you guys.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely.
Thanks for having us.
Yes, absolutely. I don't always get to do episodes where there's more than one guest, and they're actually a lot of fun. So let's start with Catie. Catie, recent Tufts grad, and you have the honor of being an ASF scholarship recipient and mentee. And I know that we hear the word astronaut and we think space, but it's really STEM focused. And I want to start with you because what you've been able to accomplish is quite impressive. And I think it's inspirational and aspirational for other students who might listen to this, whether they're in high school or college, still figuring out their path, or their parents might go like, you got to hear this. So tell us a little bit about your undergrad and your ASF connection.
Yeah, I'm from Portland, Oregon. I went to undergrad at Tufts University. I just graduated in May. I majored in biology and biotechnology. I've done biological research for about 3 years in the Merkin lab at Tufts. And I was very, very lucky to receive the Astronaut Scholarship my junior year of college, so last spring. And it's been so great for both my development and forming mentorship connections and helping me with my future in research.
So, and before we jump ahead, you just graduated. Tell everybody what you're going to be doing starting this fall.
Yes. So in about 2 weeks, I'm going to be starting my PhD at University of Colorado Boulder in molecular, cellular, and developmental biology.
Wonderful. Now, when we hear the word scholarship, so Astronaut Scholarship Foundation, scholarship, right away, everybody's ears go, oh, money. And while money's nice, your relationship with Dr. Corbin has been instrumental to this process. So when you become an ASF scholarship recipient, what does that mean, Karen, for you as a mentor? What does that carry with it over the last year or so?
Yeah, so this is my first year in the program. Orlando is a really interesting, large but small community. And I won an award where somebody from ASF was in the audience and she realized that I would be a good fit. And I was a little confused at first because I thought, I don't know anything about space. But I was very pleased to learn that they not only have scholarships for the students, but they have an active mentoring program. And so I was immediately sold on that right away because mentorship has been a huge part of my career. From all the way in middle school, I can remember mentorship events with teachers, but all the way, even today, I'm still seeking mentorship from people in my company and from before. So for me, it was an absolute pleasure to be able to partner with Catie, and I have a new mentee for 2025, but Catie and I are going to be, communicating and still working together as much as she needs me. So I'm very excited.
So essentially, you guys have a year that you spent together. So Catie, your senior year that you and Karen were regularly meeting. What does that look like? We hear the word mentorship. And one of the things I love that you said, Karen, is, mentorship really is lifelong. Right? People ask me all the time, as a college major and career coach for 15 to 25-year-olds. Somebody just asked me when I was a guest on their podcast yesterday, what does that mean? Like, when you need a coach or an advisor, you pick a person or a program for a spot in time. So career coaching is for a period of time, but career development should be lifelong.
Absolutely.
And I firmly believe that mentorship is a key component of career development. So we hear that word mentorship, and I think people go, just like they said to me, like, what does it mean to be a career coach? What does it mean to be a mentor?
So for me, it's a two-way road, and it's very different than social media likes or followers or whatnot, because it's an actual relationship. And I remember my earlier mentors, I didn't have a ton to offer them when I was younger, other than working hard and maybe being in their lab. But now, decades later, some of those early mentors come to me because they need help with a student or something else. So it's really a relationship where the mentor is involved, just sharing life experience whenever the mentee needs something specific. And we've been very strategic and purpose driven in the work with Catie, because I'm not one like, let's have a meeting once a month. It's let's get together when you have something that you need me for that I can help you with. So I've helped with certain applications, and just Catie's had so many amazing options because she's so talented. And so it's a good problem to have, but having to choose from 5 really great things, sometimes you just need somebody to bounce that off of. And you can have mentors from within your company or your inner circle, but sometimes it's nice to have somebody who has no skin in the game. I don't have any reason to steer Catie in a particular way because I want her to go in a particular way. I'm just taking everything she gives me and in an unbiased manner saying, I think this might be your best option. And then she takes it from there. So that to me is the relationship. And I do firmly believe Catie is going to make amazing strides in science. So it will be the pleasure of my life to watch her grow and learn what she's doing. And eventually she'll probably be mentoring me.
I love that. Well, I love how that grows. I keep in touch with my students in my Launch Career Clarity course on LinkedIn. And so I encourage them early to put together a LinkedIn profile, get it optimized. I'll even take a look at it for them, and then connect with me. And just this week, I shared 2 students' success stories who now are well beyond our time working together, but it thrills me to see them going on and doing fantastic things. And I take it over to our Flourish coaching profile and I just reshare like great things that they're doing, because I won't say that it surpasses what I expected, because I saw the diamond in the rough, right? But it's an opportunity to be able to celebrate it.
Absolutely.
So one thing I heard in there is the ASF model of mentoring is not necessarily like, Karen, you will meet with Catie, one time a month for 60 minutes, and which feels kind of transactional in a way if it's set up like that. But Catie, what I heard from what Karen shared is there's an onus on you to be taking an active role as far as seeking out what you need from others and asking and stepping in yourself. So tell us a little bit about like, what did that look like? You guys, you won in the spring of 24, and how did you get started? And was it intimidating at all to like reach out to, I mean, at that point she was like Dr. Corbin with Advent Health, this scientist who's like super smart on gut health. So how did you get the confidence to start? Because now you're like, oh yeah, hey Karen, it's so casual, right?
Yeah. So the way it began was I won in the spring of 2024, and then we had the Innovators Week where all of the scholars get together and we meet with all of the people from ASF and we all present our research, and you just learn a lot about the organization during that week. And also during that week, you learn about the mentorship program. And the nice thing about the mentorship program is it's elective. So both people have to like have an interest in the mentorship. And like Karen said, it's a 2-way street. And so when this was offered as an option, I immediately knew that I wanted to do it. mentorship has always been a really important aspect of my life. And I do think something I'm very good at is advocating for myself and asking for help. I've always had really, really great mentors. I still keep in touch with my mentors from high school, and one of my mentors from high school still proofreads my application essays sometimes.
That's fantastic.
So, yeah, so that I have to say that's something I do really well, is I'm not afraid to ask for help from people who are in these positions I want to be in. So I definitely knew that I wanted to utilize this mentorship program, and I have great mentors at Tufts who I talk with regularly and who have been instrumental in my career development. But Karen brings a really nice outside perspective, and I just knew that I wanted to make my mentorship team kind of the strongest possible thing it could be. And
I have a question, because
yeah,
I'm hearing a couple things that come out of that, right? So first of all, let's back up to high school. You had mentors in high school, and I push and preach that all the time. And most high schoolers do not have the wherewithal to seek that out and bring that into their lives. Can you say, like, go back to, I don't know, 16-year-old Catie for a second, which seems like a while ago now, doesn't it?
yeah.
What was different about you that maybe your peers didn't have? And this is totally okay to this is brag on Catie hour, right?
Love it.
So clearly there was something different about you than many of your peers to seek out mentorship even in high school, and to, like you said, you were pretty good at advocating for yourself from a young age. What do you think that was? Because if I'm a teen listening to this, or I'm the parent of a teen, or I work in a school setting with a teen, I want to know what that secret sauce of Catie was, 16-year-old Catie, so that I can encourage and develop that in others. And so I could sit here and guess, and I have some ideas, but what would you say about yourself?
Yeah, I write about this moment a lot in my application essays,
Ah,
actually, and I think Karen has read about this. So in ninth grade, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do at all. I had no idea. I took this placement exam in science, because there are two levels of science. There's honor science and not honors science. And I placed into honor science, and I decided that I would take the class. And at this point, I had no idea what I wanted to do: humanities, science, math. And I was taking the class, and we started with physics, which is not my best subject. And I did not do very well on the first exam. And I was pretty freaked out because I had never done that poorly on an exam. And I was like, I'm going to drop the class. I can't do this. This is the end. And my science teacher, Bianca, she is one of the biggest reasons I am where I am right now. And she had this approach that lets people correct their mistakes and go back and fix what they did wrong. And so she offered this help, and I took her up on it for help with the corrections, with learning the material. And so I met with her very regularly, and she kind of helped me gain my confidence. She helped me bounce back. And on the next exam, I got an 80. And the next exam, I got
physics?
Still physics.
Okay. I mean, that we had to hear. I'm like, well, did they move on to biology at that point? Because,
so the other cool thing about this course is it was integrated science. So it went physics, chemistry, biology. And so then we got to chemistry, and I started getting hundreds. And then we got to biology, and I was still getting hundreds. And even though I was doing really well, I still met with her regularly and just wanted to know more. And so a lot of in college and in high school, teachers have time to talk with you. They have office hours. And this, I actually took her up on it. And I think that was the biggest difference, because also getting to know your instructors as a person and not just as a teacher, that really helps you learn at a deeper level as well. And it helps them know you. And if they know you better, they know how you learn. And that was kind of the secret. And so I finished the course with an A+, and I just knew the way she taught, I knew that I wanted to take more of her classes. So I took every single one of her classes through the end of high school. And then I TA'd for her senior year. And that's when I kind of got my first taste of mentoring back. And yeah, and we're still in touch. And she's just amazing.
Yeah, what I heard in there too is you said yes to opportunities that were presented to you. But when we say yes to something, we always are saying no to something else, right? I mean, time is our one non-renewable resource. I can spend money and go find a way to make more money. I can't find a way to get time back, right? I don't have a
Yeah.
time machine. And so having the maturity, I think, to say yes, which meant a no, maybe to sleeping in the morning instead of going into school early for extra help or staying after instead of going to hang out with friends. And so I don't know, that's something that stands out for me, right?
Yeah, I also want to say that it's not like I was a big nerd and like only had school on my mind. And I was very present in athletics and extracurricular activities. And especially when this was all happening with the first exam, this was in like I played varsity volleyball for 4 years of high school. And this was in the heat of volleyball season where like we
Oh, wow.
practice every day and we have games that are like 4 hours. So I was also doing like varsity sports. So it's like very possible to balance like those two things.
I like that you size that up. Like I wasn't a big nerd, although I do believe nerds are going to rule the world. Yeah. So Karen, you were a big nerd and still are a big nerd, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
And that's a compliment to you, right?
Thank you.
You're like, that's not insulting at all. I love that. So tell us a little bit more about like what you got out of mentoring. Like we hear what you did. You've been an advisor, you've helped support, give a third party opinion, but you're giving time, but I have to believe that you get something out of it too.
Oh, for me, absolutely. And I wanted to go back and talk about Katie's maturity and courage
Yeah.
and saying yes, because I've mentored people at different career stages and even some high school kids, which I'm a bit terrified of. But, when I met with Catie, there was these papers that we had to fill out for ASF and a strategy. And I said to her, look, to me, I find the best scenario is for you to be active in the process. And as you can see, she embraced that. And my next mentee, if she doesn't embrace that, then I'll find some other way. But I really knew that was going to be successful because that does put you in the driver's seat. I don't want to have to be, forced to come up with something to talk about. You know what I mean? I want to be useful because my time is limited. So I think that says a lot for Catie that she was willing to say, okay, well, the system does have a way you can do it, but they also say I can do it my own way if I want to. And we chose a different way and it worked for us. Absolutely, mentorship gives something back to me. First, it gives me hope for the future. When things are crazy, meeting with a young person who maybe isn't as jaded by life and is just getting started and is just so excited, that fills my purpose cup and it gives me hope for the future. So, and for me, really the biggest thing is paying it forward. And Katie's already doing that at a young age. But much like Catie, I have had so many influential teachers and mentors all throughout my career. And I've always known that I wanted to give that back because I feel like my success, that is the complete foundation of anything I've ever achieved, is somebody putting me at the table, somebody opening that door. I have to walk through it. I have to have the courage to do it. But if people don't present those opportunities for you, it's much harder. So I've just been extremely blessed with people like that throughout my life. So those are the two things. It's paying it forward, and it's just the joy of being around a young person that has this passion and excitement for getting their road started.
You hit on something, and it reminds me of a conversation I just had in the last 2 weeks with a student that I'm working with, and recent Ivy grad who is career confused. He went to a fantastic institution, clearly a smart kiddo, and doesn't know what he wants to do with his dual degrees. And so the good news is it's never too late. We're going to figure it out. But a well-meaning adult said to him, hey, I'm going to connect you with some notable alum from a different Ivy. And he excitedly at our next meeting said, oh, hey, so-and-so said that they were going to connect me, blah, blah, blah. I said, oh, really? I said, that's really generous of them. What questions are you going to ask them when you sit down and do an informational interview? And he just kind of like fell. And he's like, I don't know yet. And because he was ready to say yes. And I said, these professionals, their time is very, very valuable. And you have to go in to make the most of their time and make the most of your time. So you need to be prepared, right?
Absolutely.
And so I just like this kid was going to make that mistake. And I'm like, you're only going to have one shot. Like that, we have one shot to make a first impression. And let's make sure we're prepared, right? We don't have to know all the things, but let's not waste people's time.
Yeah, a little preparation goes a long way. For anything I
Yeah.
do, I always make sure I have a little bit of prep time so that I'm not going at it completely blank. And even if it's 10 minutes of prep time, it's something. So I'm
Yeah.
not totally going into it blind.
So you mentioned Karen paying it forward, right? Catie, you were just rewarded for already paying it forward at your young age. So we didn't know this when we scheduled this time to talk. But again, we're going to brag on you. Tell everybody a little bit about the award that you just won, and it's unique. But I think it speaks to, what you are paying forward, what has been mentored to you, the way that you've been shown, and now you're already applying it as what, you're 22 or 23, I guess.
23.
23. Yeah. So tell us about your big award that's getting ready to be announced. Who was the award from?
It was from the National Institute of Neurological Disease and Stroke.
Okay, and that's part of NIH, right?
Yeah, it's part of the NIH.
Now, I mean, we hear award. We do need to say, how much money did you get?
$10,000.
Hello. Okay, that makes everybody want to keep listening right there. And so I know it was based around rigor, but you mentioned that, like, let's be very practical. So in your time at Tufts, what were the things that you were doing that qualified you to even apply for this, let alone, oh my gosh, you were the top winner?
Yeah, so what I wrote about was my experience TAing and mentoring students in the lab and promoting habits for like in myself and for the next generation of scientists. By next generation, I mean like people who are a few years younger than me, to create these habits which build trust in science and rigorous principles of research. And so one of the things I wrote about was how in this molecular biology class that I TA'd, I created this new system of analyzing primary literature. And when building that system of analyzing primary literature, I wanted to think about how was the best way that I learned to read primary literature? Because as a scientist, it's a very interesting moment where you can no longer learn from the textbooks and from online videos, and you need to go directly into the literature. But it can be very inaccessible. And I wanted to help students learn how to do that most effectively. And so I wrote about implementing the system, which had students summarize these papers. And I also wrote about mentoring my student in the lab and how I mentored him with the intent of addressing some of the things that were hard for me when I first started, and also how I could teach him the things that helped me, but also address some of the things that I wished were taught to me.
That makes sense.
So,
I mean, I think
yeah.
about science, and I'm the farthest thing from a scientist ever, right? I'm a coach. But I know from personality, I'm a master certified Berkman consultant, and that's the assessment we use as part of our process for helping people make connections to unearth like what their purpose and calling is and how they're going to put purpose to work in this world, right? And for our scientists, they love getting hands-on. They love time in the lab. They love being active and getting their hands dirty and getting curious about things. And sitting down and reading a bunch of papers is not necessarily what they want to do, right? So bravo to helping somebody who likes to get hands-on have a better approach to doing a lot of reading. And I'm sure that lights Karen up to hear like, Karen mentors you. You mentored your student from your lab, and our hope is he's going to pay it forward as well.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's actually it's really funny because he is the TA position that I had. He's going to be the TA next year.
And you didn't know that at the time?
No, I did. I set him up
Oh,
for
you
it.
did.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I think that speaks too to these mentorships, right? We hear all the time, like, I know networking feels dirty sometimes to people. Particularly, I hear from the younger generations, like, it just feels sleazy to me to say networking. But making those connections, so many opportunities can come out of those connections. And so you saw, I mean, had he not dug in and been responsive, you probably would not have been setting him up for a path forward.
Yeah.
For that. So we really got to take advantage. And like we said early on, you said yes to something in high school and you continued to say yes. And this young man said yes to what you had to offer him.
Yeah. And he's just an amazing person. And I think the story of how he became involved in research and how I found him is also very interesting because another thing that I did at Tufts was I was an ambassador for the biology department, which basically means I talk about the biology department to students and I help them declare biology majors and I help attract them to the department, but also help them find opportunities within the department. And so we do these events called open houses where we just talk about different aspects of the department. And I had a research table, and usually everybody comes up to you and is like, how do I get involved in research? And you have hundreds of people ask you how to get involved in research. And he came up to me and not only wanted to know about how to get involved in research, but wanted to know about my specific project. And so I told him about my project, and my project is pretty complex, and he just understood everything. And from that moment, I knew that kind of his initiative and also his talent, I knew someone had given me the opportunity to be in the lab. Someone had saw that in me, and I saw something in him, and I wanted to give him the same opportunity.
That's awesome.
And it took a while to get him into the lab just because of space considerations, but he never gave up on trying to connect with me, and I never gave up on trying to give him that opportunity. And I had a year just with him, working together, and he did so much for me. He asked questions that made me think differently. And watching him learn, it's kind of it almost feels like parenthood. And you're I feel so proud of him, and I feel sad to leave him, but I'm also it was really, really important to me to make sure he had a good foundation set up as I left. And and he wanted to TA, so I kind of helped him get there.
Fantastic. You know, what I also heard in there is, like you said, I had hundreds of people coming up to me because they wanted the opportunity to get in the lab and do research. And, we always hear oh my gosh, that's a great resume builder. That'll make you stand out. And it's competitive to get in, right? It's competitive to have that opportunity. But what set him apart was he wasn't just looking for the opportunity that can serve him. Instead of worrying about being interesting to you or whomever else, he took the approach of being interested in what you were doing. And that furthered the connection. And that is something I preach all the time. When we focus too much on being interesting to the other party, then we feel all this pressure about, I got to look just right, or I got to sound just right, or I got to say the right thing. But when we practice being interested, then natural connections will come, and it actually is easier to ask other people.
Yeah, I totally agree. I've had times where I've kind of feigned interest in something and not been fake, but haven't been as authentic. And then I've had more informal opportunities where literally all I'm doing is just being extremely interested in what that person is saying and the research. And my most productive relationships have come out of that approach. And also as a mentor, what I've begun to see is the traits that I value, I try to kind of emulate those when I'm searching out positions. So it's really showed me not just how to mold another researcher, but also how to make myself the more attractive as a candidate.
There's that win-win again, right?
Yeah.
So,
And
well,
I also
ladies,
think,
yeah,
so there was something we were talking about earlier, like
yeah.
making mentorship count. And I just wanted to say that kind of there are two mistakes that I notice in people, in like people my age when they're seeking out mentorship. And the first is that, like Karen said, like you're not making it count, you're not prepared, like you're not interested. So if you do have an opportunity, like take advantage of it. If there's a professor whose research you're really interested in, go to their office hours. If you have a meeting with a mentor, show up prepared, like be prepared, be interested, be prepared to be interested. The other mistake that actually happens a lot is people thinking they're not worth the time of their mentor. And they don't even bother like seeking out these opportunities because they're convinced that the mentor does not have any interest in meeting with them. The mentor does not have interest in spending time with them. Like people have to realize that they are worth the time. And I think that's something that I have realized, and that's been very helpful for me, is to not feel bad about taking someone's time if you're using it in a productive manner. And part of being a mentor is you want to have these conversations.
Yeah, that's such good advice. I just talked to an adult, one of my coaching clients this week, and I said, you're playing small. And so that's really what that resonates. Like, don't play small. So, Karen, any parting words of advice from you? That was fantastic, Catie.
Yeah, I wanted to riff off of what Catie said because I think that's so valuable that there are so many talented and capable young kids that somehow get the message that they're not good enough. And they carry that forward and they experience what Catie just talked about, which is feeling like they're not worthy of that time. So I think it's important that as mentors, we also seek out time with younger kids and give them that spark so they know you do have the talent, you can do this. Because sometimes by the time they're in college, it's really hard to reverse that mindset.
Yeah.
And as far as last parting words, if you're a scientist in the STEM field and you've never mentored anybody, if you have ASF in your community, it's a great way to give time back. I promise that any effort and time you spend mentoring will be rewarding both for your mentee and for you. And it's really important now more than ever that young people have experienced researchers that have gone through the peaks and the valleys and can say, okay, I know it seems hard now, but there's a light, and don't give up and keep going and keep fighting for science. So those would be the parting words I'd leave for today.
I love that. And we will be sure in the show notes to put the link to the ASF site. And they specifically have information on there that if you're interested in being a mentor, and remember, it's not just for astronauts, it's all STEM fields. So, ladies, thank you. And Catie, again, congratulations on that
Thank
huge
you.
award. Best
Thank you.
wishes for your time at Boulder and your PhD program. I know you're going to do great things.
Absolutely.
Take care, ladies.
Thank you.